Hello and welcome to part 25 of the Johnny Blender 2.0 series. When last we looked at this, we had just set up the, well, if I can select it, there we go. We had just set up the rig and everything, and now we need to, well, we've already applied the automatic weights, which honestly, those are more for other body parts. For when you get into the face and things like that, it's really kind of hard to get them to control. See, for example, look at the lips right there. They're really, a lot of these bones are way too close together for that automatic weight painting to really work well. So before I jump in and fix all that, there's one other thing I want to do, and that is to give some control to our eyeballs. Now the way we're going to do that is we just select the eyeball. We're going to Shift S and pop our cursor to the selected so that our cursor is right there in the center of the eyeball. And we're going to grab one of these bones, tab into edit mode, and we're going to add a new bone, Shift A. And now I'm going to grab the tip of it, I'm going to Shift S, I'm going to put the selection to the cursor, and then just drag the green arrow there out to bring it to perfectly align it pointing forwards. So now if I tab into pose mode and I rotate it, you can see that it's going to rotate there around the center of the eyeball. And so therefore, when I parent the eyeball to this bone, it'll follow along. Now, a good easy way to control where the eyes are going to point is tab back into edit mode, and we're just going to Shift D, duplicate this eyeball controller, and let's just move it out. Same thing, green arrow, just move it straight out to the front, and then let's grab one end of it and move it down. So it's going to look at this, Alt Control S to make it a little bigger. That bone's going to point directly at this, actually on the right side. I thought it was on the left, but no big deal. Let's go ahead and name those actually. Let's name this I.L, and then we'll name this look at.L. Okay, and now I want to grab the look at and then Shift select my eyeball and Shift I. Add an IK chain to it just like we did with the jaw, and need to go ahead and go to our armature constraints and give it a chain length of 1. So now when I rotate the look at target, you can see the eye controller bone is going to follow along. So let's do the same thing we did with the other half of the face. Let's select it, tab into edit mode, make sure our cursor's lined up perfectly in the center. Okay, and we're going to Shift D to duplicate it, and then SX -1. Actually, I guess I need to tell it to just right click to cancel all that. Let's go to our 3D cursor, their pivot point. So now Shift, no shifting, just SX -1. There we go. And it copied it perfectly over to the other eyeball. Now it looks like this eyeball might be offset just a little bit because it's not centered up where it should be. So let's go ahead and tab out of edit mode and actually tab back into edit mode. Before we do that, let's just go ahead and flip the names. So now it's I right, and I left. Did I name this one wrong? I did. So this one we need to, since this one already has the right name, it's not going to let me rename this one. So let's just put just a 1 after this and after this. Well, I'll do that. There we go. And now we can go over here and say this one's the right one, and this one's the right one, and then this one L. Okay, there we go. Now let's this one's pointing in a very strange fashion. Let's X that off. Shift I to active bone. There we go. Chain length of 1. All right. So now if we grab these, oops, make sure you deselect the eyeball bone. There we go. So you can move where the eyeballs are going to point. One other thing you can do that we're going to do here, let's go ahead and add another bone. Shift A, and then go to side view, and let's move that out here by the other ones. Excuse me. And let's grab these two look at bones, and we're going to parent them to this guy. Keep the offset. Now we'll tab back to pose mode, and now I can just move the one bone. Don't have to worry about trying to select the both of them, and the eyes will follow. Okay, now that eyeball, let's get that lined up a little bit better. The way we can do that without just trying to eyeball it, to turn a phrase. Let's just zoom in here to, or just hit Z to go into wireframe view, and we'll tab into edit mode, grab that point that's going to be the pivot point. We'll Shift S, cursor to selected, and we'll tab back out and just grab our eyeball, Shift S, selected to cursor, and you see it moved it over just a little bit. So now should be lined up perfectly, and this one should be as well. So now we just need to apply the eyeballs to the controller bones. So it's easier to do in wireframe view. So go ahead and select the eyeball, then shift select the controller bone, Control P, set the parent to the bone. Okay, do the same thing over here, Control P to the bone. And now we can tab out and we can move that around. I'll zoom in here so we can see it. And the eyeballs follow along. Now, one more thing. We've got to set these two bones here to be parented to the head. Keep the offset. There we go. So now, say he's looking at something over here and he wants to give it his full attention, so he just moves his head over to look directly at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear that out. And let's go ahead and save as 25. I was messing with this earlier, so I'll just go ahead and overwrite what I had before. So go ahead and save. Okay, now as I was saying, the automatic bone weights are not the best thing to use for a facial rig. So what we're going to have to do is go in here to our vertex groups under the object data, and we just need to select all of these. Too bad we can't do all of them at once, but we need to just need to delete all of them. So just select one of them and just start hitting that minus button beside them, and it'll delete all of those one by one. There you go. And now you can see the face. Excuse me. It's still following because sometimes they have a residual weight paint on them, even though we've deleted that vertex group. Also need to do it for the jacket. Delete all of those. And that's handy because the jacket didn't need, weights for like the eyebrows and stuff. It's just down here. So the other way to do this, the more accurate way, is same thing. Just select the model first. I guess we'll start with the jacket. No big deal. Shift select the bone and go Control P. And this time, just say with empty groups. There we go. And now we can tab into, grab our object, and now we can go to weight paint, and we can kind of pick which bones we want to have influence. So right now, none of the bones, if you select the wrong one, it'll deselect it. But anyways, right now we have our jacket selected, and we don't have any bones weighted to it. So we can paint the ones we want. So let's go to over here, turn on the X mirror, and let's make our brush quite a bit bigger. There we go. And make sure our tool is set to mix is fine. You could also use add. But now we want all of this chest bone to control everything. So just paint over in here, and it will apply it to that bone. Now another easy way you can do this is if you just let's go to side view. If you just tab into edit mode, you can select basically all of the bones you want to be influenced by this, or all of the faces of the mesh you want to be influenced by this bone, and just say, hey, I want them to be assigned to the chest over here in the vertex group, and just hit assign, and you tab back out, and boom, it locks them all to it. So actually, I guess we could say we want all the bones to be applied, so just hit A to select all of them, and we'll just assign them all to the chest. And like I said, we don't want, since we applied it to the whole rig, it went ahead and put vertex groups for every bone on the rig, but we don't need all of them. for the jacket. We just need basically the chest and neck. So let's just select the head down here and just start hitting the minus button. It'll delete all the other vertex groups that are unnecessary. Oops, went a little too far. Let me undo a couple times. Nope, it's not letting me undo. Ha, well. Okay, we can just go ahead and paint that on there, and well, there it goes. It automatically puts a vertex group when you start painting. So go ahead and select the neck and go ahead and paint that on too, and you can see it automatically inserted a vertex group. So for the chest, everything is part of the chest bone, which is what I want. And for the neck bone, we can just go ahead and paint that on there. Okay. Now, if we were to go to object mode and grab our head bone, rotate it around, of course the jacket is not going to follow it along, but if we move the neck around, you can see some of that jacket coming up with it. Now, this is a very tedious job. This is the least desired job in my opinion of rigging a model, but it's got to be done if you want it to look right. So I'll tell you what, I'm not going to bore you with sitting here watching me paint all these individual bones. So I'll just pause the recorder and I'll check in periodically with this so you can see kind of how the process is going. So stand by, I'll be right back. Okay, here's one thing that's kind of handy to know. I'm painting on the neck now, which in the object mode it's hidden underneath the jacket. So when I'm painting is like the jacket's in the way, I can't see what I'm doing really. But if you just hit Z on your keyboard, it'll kind of go into an X-ray view where you can paint that on there a lot easier and see what you're doing. So anyways, as I said, I'll go ahead and pause the recorder again and just check in periodically. So be right back. Okay, now you can see that I've painted the weights on the head here to pretty much only cover what's not going to be moving. For example, we're not going to move the ears, so I went ahead and painted those. Now if you were doing a different model that had ears you wanted to move around, you could go ahead and do that. But like on the cheekbones here, those aren't going anywhere. The nose is not going to be animated. And most of the forehead will not be, just basically over the eyebrows. So that's a good way to paint the head bone, because we want all the other bones to control their respective areas and not have to interfere with the head's weight. So, okay, moving on. Okay, and here's the setup for the jaw. Sometimes if you hold down Alt while you're clicking and dragging, you can lock the paintbrush basically. But right now, okay, I've painted along the jaw, and I kind of want it to control a little bit on the cheeks and down the neck a little bit as well. So I just grabbed the blur tool. Remember, we used that when we painted the scalp vertex group. And so now the jaw will control the chin definitely, and then most of the jawline itself too. So, okay, moving on. Okay, now you notice I did it again. Well, come on. There we go. Undo that. Well, heck. There we go. It's like pressing pause and record in the video recorder kind of screws with some of this controls here in Blender. But anyways, as I was going to say, I painted the left cheek over here, and another thing for the rig to be named left and right, other than the posing, is also for the X mirror weight painting. So see, I painted this left cheek. Boom, the right cheek, or excuse me, I painted the right cheek. The left cheek was automatically painted, so it saves you, half the time. So for example, I'll go in here now and I'll start painting on this eyebrow. Go and make sure I go to add. So I'll just click and drag across there. And if I check over here on this eyebrow, boom, it's already painted, so it saves you a lot of time. Okay, moving on. Okay, now I painted the, oh, it's doing it again. Every time I come out from my, well, that's frustrating. I'm gonna go back and fix it now, subtract. Okay, sorry for my frustration there. Anyways, as I was going to say, I painted this this left eye around the. You just want to paint with the on the stretch bones. Don't paint from the control bones, because remember we turn their deformation, we turn their deform off on there. Now I want to blur the edges of this a little bit better. Okay, and this guy as well. Okay, and since we have the mirror turned on, it's automatically painted this eye as well. Okay, now, I would call it the fun part, but that would be sarcastic, because this part is going to be a little tedious. This is where we start working with the lips and inside the mouth and everything. So, I'll go ahead and walk you through a little bit of this, and then, like I said, it's going to be tedious, so I'll probably go ahead and stop the recording again here shortly. But I'm just going to grab these stretch bones and just start painting. Make sure we're on either mix or add. I'll just go to mix. Okay. Just paint those on. We can set our strength of our brush up a little bit. There we go. And remember, red is the full weight, whereas fading to green, from yellow to green to blue, that's where the weights start becoming less heavy, if you will. And I'll go ahead and subtract on this upper lip up here. Okay, go back to mix. And love that mirror modifier, or that X mirror. So, go ahead and paint the top lip up here, and this guy as well. Okay, so we got our basic mouth outlined. Now, to get it to be able to see where we go inside the mouth, we need to grab our chin bone. We can still do this from the weight paint modes, no big deal. And just move it down, and you can see it starts to open the mouth. And then this might be easier to see if we Z back into solid view. And I'll grab this part of the lip, the controller, and move it down. Move this guy too. And let's just open that mouth way big, open real wide. Okay, this looks like it's going to be a little difficult to get those separated because we modeled the lips so closely together, like it was almost closed. It's going to be real difficult to separate those out now that we're trying to separate them with our weight paints and rigs. But it's not impossible. It's just a little difficult. One thing that might help, let's come back out of weight paint mode, and let's tab into edit mode. And let's go in here and see if we can't just select each part of our lips here. Those are connected. That's probably why we're having such a big problem there. Trying to see if I can't find the loop that's going to separate them. Always got the wrong pivot point. There we go. Let's try this. This hits W and then smooth, and then see if we can. No, that's not the right one either. Let's undo all that. I think we're in trouble here. I think our mesh crisscrossed when we extruded the mouth. You see that's the, type into perspective view, you can see that's the outer rim of the inside of the mouth. But then if we click here, you can see that this is actually for the bottom lip and this is for the top. So well, that is a problem. Let's see what we can do to fix that. I guess what we'll need to do is just delete this whole loop right here. Hopefully this won't screw up our well, let's delete a different loop. That one's kind of a key loop there. Let's just delete this guy. Actually, what we can do, let's just delete these faces right here, and then maybe we can sew them back together properly. I'm afraid that's going to mess up our texture map and everything though, but we'll do what we can. Let's try to get everything out of the way. Let's hide our teeth, hide the rest of the inside of the mouth, tongue. I'm just selecting one of the faces and just hitting Control L to select all the other faces connected, and then H to hide. Okay, so we got all that out of the way. So let's do what we can to sew this back together. Grab these and move them down. This is that outer edge of the lips, so. Okay, so now we can just select each one of these. Actually, not that one. F to connect. There we go. We're getting there. Let's move this so we can see down in here a little bit better. Wow, this is a big mess. Select all these guys and just to smooth them so we can. There we go. Where is this guy supposed to go? Okay, so these. Okay, it's coming along slowly but surely. Don't call me Shirley. Oldie but a goodie. Let's select them all first. There we go. Now, unfortunately, since we're kind of doing this after we applied the mirror modifier, when we start painting again, the that X mirror is not going to be quite so handy here around the mouth. We'll have to do each individual bone most likely, instead of just half of them. Okay. Need to clean up this mess again. Smooth. There we go. We're getting there. We'll have to do a test render to make sure everything. Well, I hope it doesn't screw anything up. And almost there. One final face to make. Boom. There we go. So now we have our mouth correct. Tab out of edit mode. There we go. Now we can see inside there. Or can we? A little bit. Let's grab all our bones. Grab one of the bones so we go into pose mode there. Select all of them. Alt-G to clear out all their locations. And go ahead and Alt-R in case anything is rotated. No? You tell you what, one thing that's handy to get the bones out of the way sometimes, like right now I'd kind of like to see the mesh a little bit easier, but some of the bones are in the way, even though they're set to X-ray. If I go to object mode of the bones, I can just grab the whole armature now and just hit M to bring up my layer section and just go ahead and drop that to that layer down there. And now you can see that the lips are indeed separated. I'm just worried. Make sure we go to smooth there. Is that going to change anything? I'm worried that their normals might be screwed up. But let's give it a test render and kind of see what it's going to look like. Cross your fingers. Hopefully everything comes out okay. Okay, so far, might have some mess up here around the where the whiskers. Oh, wow! The head hair. Anytime you change any of the underlying mesh, the particle settings kind of get screwed up. Obviously, as you can see here. So I tell you what I will do. I won't make you sit through there. We'll just need to clean up the particle hair same way we did it before. We just got to do it again. And we'll do all that. And it looks like the texture map and everything's still fine. So I don't think we really screwed too much up other than the particle hair, which we can easily fix. So that's going to be all of part 25. Off camera, I'll go ahead and fix all the hair up and everything back to where it was. You can do the same. And I'll catch you in part 26.